Right now, it feels like we're living in this endless AI summer, right? But the history of artificial intelligence, well, it's a wild story of these incredible booms followed by absolutely devastating busts. So today, we're digging into that secret history to ask a really critical question. Have we actually been here before?
I mean, just think about it. It's 2026, and you really can't escape AI. It's in our phones, it's in our cars, I bet it's even in some of our coffee makers. What used to be this weird curiosity locked away in a university lab is now just everywhere. It's reshaping our world at a speed that is, frankly, kind of dizzying.
We're seeing tools with capabilities that were straight-up science fiction just a few years ago. You've got ChatGPT, which hit 100 million users in, 2 months? Midjourney, which can turn a few words into a masterpiece? Then there's OpenAI's Sora, doing the same for video. And now we're seeing the beginning of autonomous agents, AI that can actually carry out complex, multi-step tasks all on their own. The pace of progress is just staggering.
But what if this whole cycle of massive hype, huge investment, and these breathtaking promises, what if it isn't new at all? What if history tells us that this exact kind of boom can be followed by a sudden, brutal collapse? That's the big question we're really exploring today.
Okay, so to really get a handle on the present, we've got to rewind the clock. Let's take a look at the very first time the AI world went cold. We're talking about the first AI winter.
So what exactly is an AI winter? Well, it's basically a period where all that initial excitement and all those big promises about AI, they just fail to materialize. That leads to this massive, widespread disappointment. And the result? Funding dries up, research stalls, and the entire field gets this reputation for being full of, wild-eyed dreamers.
And just listen to how severe this warning was. Back in 1984, two of the founding fathers of AI weren't just predicting a little downturn. They actually used the term nuclear winter to describe what they saw coming, a cascading collapse that could wipe out serious research for years.
So what triggered that first winter? Well, one of the biggest culprits was the spectacular failure of machine translation. During the Cold War, the US government was just pouring money into this dream of instantly translating Russian documents. Yet headlines like, "Robot brain translates Russian into King's English." But the reality was a lot messier. And this just brilliantly illustrates the problem. Researchers had totally underestimated how hard it is to teach a machine what we now call common sense knowledge. Sure, a machine can translate words, but if it doesn't get the context, it makes these absurd, hilarious mistakes. This famous example, even if it's just a story, shows how a simple idiom could get mangled into something just completely nonsensical.
And then the disappointment became official. In 1966, the US government's ALPAC report came out and effectively killed machine translation research. A few years later, over in the UK, the Lighthill report delivered another devastating blow. It basically led to the near-total dismantling of AI research in the entire country. The plug had officially been pulled. The first winter had arrived.
But the cycle wasn't over, not by a long shot. After a while out in the cold, AI came roaring back in the 1980s. This time, it was driven by a new tech that promised to completely revolutionize business: expert systems.
This number, right here, this is the reason for the boom. $40 million. That's how much one company, Digital Equipment Corporation, was said to have saved over 6 years using just one expert system. That single success story kicked off an absolute gold rush. By 1985, corporations were spending over $1 billion a year on this stuff.
The promise was, let's be honest, intoxicating. A computer program that could capture all the knowledge of a top human expert and put it in a box. But the reality, well, it was a lot less glamorous. These systems were brittle, meaning they'd just break if you gave them a problem that was slightly unusual. They were incredibly expensive to update, and, this is the crucial part, they couldn't learn. Think of them like an encyclopedia that could answer questions but could never ever read a new book on its own. Every single new piece of information had to be manually programmed in.
And just look at this timeline. It shows you exactly how fast that gold rush turned to dust. You can see the bubble inflating like crazy. Japan launches this massive, ambitious project. Corporate spending just explodes. But then, just 2 years later, bam, 1987. The bottom completely falls out. The market for specialized hardware collapses, and by the early 90s, the second, even longer AI winter had begun.
And that collapse was just swift and brutal. An entire industry built around these specialized computers, these machines designed to run a specific AI programming language called Lisp. It was worth $500 million, and it was wiped out, gone, in a single year. All because cheaper, more general-purpose computers suddenly got just as powerful. So, with all the funding gone and AI becoming kind of a dirty word, you'd think everything just stopped, right? But that's not the whole story. Some of the most important work in the history of AI actually happened quietly during the freeze.
This is a really common misconception. I mean, did the lack of money and public interest just kill off all progress for, like, over a decade? Nope, not at all. What happened was the goals shifted. Instead of trying to build this gigantic, human-like brain in a box, researchers got focused. They started trying to master just one small piece of the puzzle at a time, like, say, teaching a machine to play one single, perfect game of chess.
And this is where the story gets fascinating. Just look at these milestones. In 1978, deep in the first winter, a chess grandmaster was beaten by a computer named Bell. And get this, he didn't even know his opponent wasn't human. Then in 1997, smack in the middle of the second winter, you get one of the most iconic moments in AI history. IBM's Deep Blue defeats Garry Kasparov. These weren't flashy products for sale, but they were absolutely fundamental breakthroughs.
Which brings us all the way back to today. We are clearly in an AI spring, maybe even a full-blown summer. But with all these lessons from history in our back pocket, we have to ask the big question. Is this time really different?
And you know, the arguments for this time is different are pretty compelling when you look at the fundamentals. Where the old booms ran on these rigid, hand-coded rules, the current one is powered by deep learning, systems that actually learn from huge amounts of data. Instead of those tiny, curated data sets, we have, well, the entire internet. And critically, instead of that expensive, specialized hardware, we have general-purpose GPUs, the same powerful chips that run our video games. The whole foundation is different.
Look, the technology today is undeniably, astronomically more powerful. We have more data, more computing power, and more advanced algorithms than ever before. And yet, doesn't this cycle of incredible hype, massive investment, and these sky-high promises, doesn't it all feel just a little bit familiar? So the real question is, are we finally breaking that historical cycle and building a sustainable future for AI, or are we just in the process of inflating the biggest, most spectacular AI bubble yet? History gives us the context, but I guess only the future will tell.